mics. Salty takes blondes overboard. No life jackets, no brakes. Dive into blondes overboard. Yeah, dive in. Too late. Shit the water. Blondes overboard. Overboard. Hey, you made it. Welcome aboard. Emily and Brittany setting the score.
Welcome, everyone. This is a out of the box sort of Blondes Overboard pod episode. We are doing a blonde voyage, so to speak. We're doing it over Zoom. And I am joined today by founder, you correct me with title, but Jonathan, who is the founder, owner of Chutzpah Coffee. Welcome. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. This is super exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, I was telling Jonathan quickly, just behind the scenes before we started, that his ads on Instagram and social media are doing so good because I found them and was super excited, not just by the branding, by the story behind it, just reading your website, going through your social media and understanding a little bit about the history. But I wanted to have you on today. So you are located in DC, that's correct, right?
Yeah. I'm in DC now, but originally from Long Island, so I still have
Oh,
my accent here and there.
yeah. I know the accent is very hard to drop. My whole family's from the Bronx, and so is my husband's family. So I've really worked on my accent over the year, living in the Bronx and then coming to New Jersey. It's like it's bad, bad. The A's, it's the A's. Okay, cool. So I'd love to learn a little bit about you, your history, how this all started. Tell us a little more.
Yeah. So my background's not in coffee at all. I actually went to school for engineering and then product management, where I got my master's. And I think the link to coffee is that I needed a lot of it to keep myself going through the engineering kind of career. Um, and obviously, I've always been proud of who I am, proud of being Jewish. And after October 7th, like I think everyone knows, anti Semitism kind of went through the roof. And I really wanted to support other Jewish brands for all of the things that I do, whether it be drinking lots of coffee, finding Jewish restaurants, and just supporting the community. And when it came to coffee, I did not find a single specialty grade coffee brand out there, or even just a regular coffee brand out there that was like focused on being Jewish. There were Jewish owned brands, but they weren't pushing it. They weren't saying, "Oh, we're Jewish owned," and I really like wanted to support that. And then a couple days later, I was like, "Can I actually like make this?" And now we're kind of a little over a year later, but we really like dug in. Me and a few friends kind of got together. We were like, "What can we actually do to make this a reality? What do we want to do? How do we want to build this?" And none of us have any experience in starting a company. Most of us have tech. Some of us have a little bit of sales background. One of my co-founders is medical sales, but like we really are not like coffee salesmen at all. We're just proud of being Jewish, and we wanted to try and start something a little bit bigger than ourselves. And one of the biggest things too is like we didn't just want to sell good coffee. We also wanted to give back. We now have a new charity partner because I wanted to do a little bit more local. So we're working with an org called Imadi, and they do pediatric healthcare and it's like concierge healthcare. And a great example of this is I think it was last month or a few months ago, for kids who loved baseball but were unable to play traditional baseball. They built in a cornfield, the Field of Dreams, for these kids who were affected to play. And I'm a huge sports guy, so when I saw that, I was like, "That's like awesome! Like these kids can now like live out their dream of playing baseball in like a cornfield, like the Field of Dreams movie." And Amadi is a proud Jewish organization that does that. So yeah, it all tied together there.
Yeah, I love that so much. I think it's so interesting to come up with an idea and then figure out like back into it, right? So like you come up with the idea and then you start to figure out the pieces, right? Rather than vice versa. For people out there that don't know what chutzpah means, can you explain what that means and how the name kind of ties into the brand?
Yeah. So I think when people see like the word chutzpah, I think there's the positive and the negative connotation. A lot of Hebrew words are like that, like shalom, hi, and bye. Chutzpah also has two connotations, but we kind of go with the positive one, of course, which is kind of that bold, audacious spirit. And since we're a coffee brand, you want a bold coffee in the morning. And also just in being proud to be Jewish, I feel like you kind of have to put your foot down nowadays, like to be a proud Jew. And it's sad that that's like the reality, but we're not backing away from it. We want to be bold and we want to be loud with who we are. And like we should have pride in being Jewish. And that's what the brand's all about. And that's why we chose the name Chutzpah. And also alliteration with the word coffee. I'm so surprised the name was available, but very thankful it was.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I know alliteration is amazing. And it just caught my eye instantly. Can you back up to show the camera so we can get
Yeah.
a good look at him? So
This is a
Jonathan has, go
Comfort
ahead.
Colors sweatshirt. We have some great merch. I think I'm surprised how the merch kind of took off, like almost as much as the coffee. Like we have mugs. I have one right here that I use all the time. It says hot and Jewish, and like I kind of just made this one almost as like a joke, like hot and Jewish, just like my coffee. And this mug, like it sells like crazy. I'm just like floored with the success. I think there's just a lot of hot Jews who are full of chutzpah out there. And to go with that, we have our full of chutzpah mug, so you can get both.
I love that. I mean, just in time for Hanukkah, we'll make sure that this comes out way before Hanukkah so people can get their purchases in. But I mean, it's also organic and perfect. I mean, if you have chutzpah, you're gonna you're gonna say you're hot and Jewish. Like it just all makes so much sense. So I love how natural the brand feels. Okay, so I mean, I had some like funny questions. I think you hit on a lot of the stuff. Did you go through like a list of 100 terrible ideas for names, for branding, for the look, the feel? And going back to your branding, like you showed me a bag of coffee before. Can you tell us like the other two men that you work with? Are you related? I am sorry, did I pick that up before?
No, so we're just friends. One of them was
Just
actually
friends.
an old college fraternity brother. I knew he was
Cool.
good at building websites. So when I needed a
Yeah.
website, I mentioned the idea to him and he wanted to join. So that was like my first connection. And then here in DC, just through the Jewish community, I met another person. And that was Jack. And he's also a great person to start a company with. So between Matt, my fraternity brother, and Jack, we kind of started this thing. And then we have one more member who joined a little later. His name is Shai, and he's going to help us with some marketing and advertising in the future. So it's really the four of us now. And yeah, in terms of the ideas, I think we're still like not afraid to make pivots. Coming up in January, we have some big news. It's not a super secret I can share on this, but we're going to be pivoting towards more of a craft roaster. And like when we started this, we wanted specialty grade coffee, but we also like want everyone to like it. And so you're kind of tiptoeing that balance between like commercial and craft, and that's really hard to do. There's really no company that tries to do both. And I think moving
Mhm.
forward, we're going to stick to like the craft coffee. We're actually going to start roasting to order instead of
Mm,
like small batches. We're going to do hyper small batches. So
cool.
currently our batch size is around 400 pounds. We're going to drop it down to 50 and do roast to order. So it's going to be a little bit pricier in terms of setting it up, but we're actually not going to raise the prices. We're going to try and get chutzpah into everyone's house for the same way, same price, despite the tariffs and everything, and just get them better coffee. Because I feel like you got to start your morning with chutzpah. And in terms of
Yeah.
like brand and marketing, we kind of just the first bag we did was just this. We worked with like a little designer online that we found, and they did a great job. We love the bags, but I think just like there was no, I guess, rhyme or reason to it. We were like, we're starting a company. This is fun. And now that we're starting to like establish ourselves more and like build a brand, we actually just updated the logo to make it a little bit more modern. So this is now our
Nice.
retro logo. We have our modern logo, which is now on all of our socials. I think just as we grow, we're kind of like growing into what we want to become. We definitely just started kind of on a whim. And like the more it solidifies, the more that people buy, the more we can do. So it just keeps growing. And yeah,
Yeah. I
truly,
love that.
truly love the startup.
I know. No, it's so true. I need to place an order because I need the sweatshirt that you're wearing and I want to get one for my mom too. And then I was thinking like I should just make her like a Hanukkah basket and have like the 2 cups of coffee, and then the sweater in the behind. Oh, perfect for Hanukkah. Um, so so you mentioned the tariffs. Obviously, that's huge. Can you tell us like what is the process? How did you find who is going to source the beans, roast them? Like where does all of that happen? Can you give us a little behind the scenes like and how does the whole like kosher bean supply work into everything? So tell us more.
Yeah. So the roaster that we currently are using, we're actually switching to a new one in January with that whole big switch just to get into that more craft space. So obviously our old roaster was great. The coffee is great, but making that pivot to craft, we really wanted someone who could make coffee in smaller batches, source good coffee, and roast the recipes that we want to our standards, which is, I guess, my standard. I'm kind of a coffee snob. But the kosher thing, we really want to make sure they're already kosher. So right now we use Kosher Check, which is formerly BC Kosher. They're kind of more in like the Canadian North region, but we'll be shifting to Star K. So everyone knows Star K. And we found a roasting partner who is already under that hexture. So it's super easy for us to integrate. With coffee, most ground and whole bean coffee is already kosher, assuming it was washed in the right process and like no bugs got in when it was ground and like all
Right.
those processes are there. But when it comes to flavored coffee, which we just launched our first flavored coffee, we just launched Oi
Vanilla.
Vanilla. It's a little bit tougher because you have to make sure that the flavors are parve because most people they don't want their coffee to be affecting their breakfast choice, so it has to be
Mm-hmm.
parve. And also just like a lot of flavors that are not kosher use like gelatin and other materials
Mm,
and ingredients. So when finding that, it's a little bit tougher to find flavors and the availability of flavors just because they aren't as mass produced. But we
yeah.
found a great partner that does that. And like I said, starting in January, we're going to have, I think, 6 new roasts. So we're going to have so much more coffee coming out. We're going to have some single origins, if the coffee snobs know what that is.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we're really going to go all into the craft scene. And yeah, just super excited to take it from there. And
Yeah.
the way we found the partner, we just sample a lot of coffee. I think right now, if I look, I have probably about 40 bags of coffee on my shelf. That's just the ones I sampled. I just love coffee. I try every roaster I can find. I'll buy bags here, I'll buy bags there.
Yeah.
So even though I drink Chutzpah a lot, I'm also
Right.
always drinking different coffee. I just love,
Right. You have to test the competition. I mean, you
yeah.
wouldn't be a good business owner if you didn't.
And I also feel like with the craft coffee scene, it's less like a competition. It's more like a
Yeah.
respect of other beans. It's kind of like if you look at the beer industry. Like if you look at the commercial level, like Bud Light competes with Bud, like all those other brands. I guess they're the same kind of parent brand, or like
Hmm.
Dunkin' competes with Starbucks. But if you go into like that craft brewery scene, you see a lot more collaborations. You see a lot more experimentation. Because I think like the vibe is different. So
Hmm.
many of these craft coffee roasters and like same with craft breweries, you probably don't even know their names, but they're all profitable businesses that make great products.
Right.
And I think like that's the area we want to be. We want to be like coffee that truly has chutzpah, not just run of the mill coffee that has Jewish branding. Like we want, if you're someone who likes single origins, we want that to be available to you, where you can taste a certain region wherever we choose. Right now, we're leaning into an Ethiopian region, so that should be coming out in January. But yeah, we just want to be like an exciting coffee to try each morning and not just like, oh, this is commercial coffee with Jewish branding.
No, I think that's really smart. And I loved what you said. And it's what we're all about here at the podcast, too, is like these partnerships versus competition, right? Like if we all work together, it's better for everyone's bottom line versus trying to compete with one another. We've been working with a lot of like super local, I'm sure, Bergen County, like being from Long Island, like there are a lot of people that do similar things.
Mhm.
And we found like when one brand is bashing another, they're not the successful ones, right? Like if you're open to partnership, I think that's super smart. And like what's not to say that in the future you guys aren't going to partner even further and become like a conglomerate. I think that's really exciting.
Yeah, and I
Um
think anyone listening to this, if there's other Jewish brands out there that like can tie into coffee, we're always down to collaborate. We're not going to be like, oh, give us money to post. Like we wouldn't do that. Like we just want to grow organically. And I think that's like our big thing. Like we very much treat this like it's a fun thing to do. I'm not in this to make like tons of money. I'm in this to spread Jewish pride, raise some money for charity, and just kind of like be proudly Jewish with it. Um, so yeah, I feel like at the end of the day, like luckily I do have a day job that kind of pays my bills. So with this, I'm able to treat it more like let's put a good product out there. Let's be proud Jews. And like let's make more of like that emotional difference. And if the bottom
mhm.
line isn't life changing, then I'm not going to lose sleep over it.
Right. And I think like because there's less pressure on it, it'll do really well. I think when we start to like freak out and put all of our eggs in one basket, I mean, it becomes really hard. And I love that you're trying to grow organically. I mean, with social media, it's so hard. I think that's another reason why we created this podcast. It's another channel to get marketing out. So those same Jewish brands that you're reaching out to partner, please reach out to us. We want to have you on the pod. Um, that's awesome. What is your go-to, like in the morning? What are you making yourself? Are you making yourself like a regular drip are you doing pour overs, which I just got into, which I love?
Yeah.
Like, what's your go-to?
So pour overs are great. I usually mix up my pour over. So I'm either using a Chemex, which is like the fancy. I'm sure everyone knows what a Chemex is at this
Oh my
point.
God, you're gonna look like a scientist in there.
A Chemex, or this device that I actually found out when I was in Japan. It's called a Hario switch. So
Mhm.
it's a device that's kind of like that same funnel like a Chemex would have, but it has a little switch on it. So you can treat it like a pour over, or you can close the switch and it starts to fill up kind of like an AeroPress. And you can actually like do
Mm.
half and half. So you can get all like those light floral notes from the pour over portion, then flip the valve, let it fill, and then let it all drop, and you get more of like a full body. So you actually can get like both the delicate notes and a full bodied coffee with that. So that's probably my method right now. And then when I'm feeling lazy, I'll just get a bunch of grounds from Chutzpah. I'll throw it in a cold brew maker, and that's like my backup. It's just like I have the cold brew sitting, where if I don't want to go through the ritual, I could just pour some cold brew into my cup.
Oh my goodness. Like, how do you sleep well at night?
I do.
That's a lot of caffeine.
The caffeine I don't think gets to me. I think the part that contributes to my not lack of sleep, but like less sleep is running the company, having a day job, and trying to
Yeah.
keep up with all the social stuff. Um,
Yeah.
like running a startup, I think is much harder than I thought it would be. I've got some other like
Yeah.
engineering ideas that I've tried, but they never got like this far.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was like, oh, we're gonna get a great product. We're gonna start selling 100 bags a day and like all this stuff. And it is so much harder.
No, totally. I mean, yeah. What are some other challenges aside from like trying to, partner with craft brands and finding kosher and um, you know,
Yeah.
talk about tariffs and everything. Like what are some other things that you've run into, if you don't mind
Yeah.
sharing?
I'll go back to the tariffs. I think that's like the biggest
Yeah.
effect. Like we still have not raised coffee prices. So with the tariffs, that means we're taking on margin. Like I said, thankfully, like this company is not putting food on my table. So we don't want to raise prices if we don't have to. Some might say that's poor business, but like for me, it's about spreading Jewish pride. But the tariffs are a big hit to our margins. Our coffee mostly comes from Colombia and Brazil. And as you saw, they got hit really hard with the tariffs.
Hmm.
Um, so it's probably cut our profit margins by at least 40%. In some cases,
Wow.
half for some, just the way the ratios of coffee are each month to month and all that stuff. But with our new roaster, it's going to be a little bit more controlled,
Hmm.
just the way we're doing it. We're getting some African coffees as well. So there's not as many tariffs there. So we're going to try to balance it out using different blends of coffee. And then also changing up the packaging a little bit. We're going to go to a compostable package. So we're going to help the environment. And also just some, I guess, business talk here. When you buy a bunch of the same package, you can get economies of scale discount. So by using one base bag and then putting a label of our new roast flavor on it, it's going to help offset the tariff cost of coffee. So kind of like business trade-offs instead of fully printed custom bags that while they look great, they cost a lot. Going kind of for that more craft roastery vibe with one bag that's going to be compostable and then with the label on it. So we can get better coffee to you at the same price.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I think the compostable thing will also make you really marketable, right?
Yeah.
So when you are trying to go, and work with other brands too, or work with other businesses, that's awesome. Have you guys like tried to get into any local coffee shops by you?
Yeah, so we've definitely tried and we're trying to get into more. We have
Hmm.
one or two stores that we're in right now, um, but we want to keep that growing. And I think, like in the future, since we'll be freshly roasted to order, that opens up a lot
Hmm.
more possibility to some of these like higher end grocery stores that
Yeah.
only want fresh roasted coffee. So, like I said, in January, the business model is changing a little bit. So, for those coffee snobs who only buy their beans that are roasted within a 2 week window before they buy, we're now going to meet that demand. So I think that's
Yeah.
going to be awesome for the grocery stores. But in general, it's tough because a small business does not have the same margins as a bigger business.
Hmm.
Just our scales are going to be different. So it's tough when they're like, yeah, we sell these Starbucks bags and we're making 50% margin and we can't match that. So sometimes you have to find someone who just agrees with the mission, or maybe they start by just they want to help you out first. But that's one of the tough challenges with being just a smaller and newer brand is you can't necessarily compete. So you have to like tell them your story. You have to be more personable. You can't just send them a pricing sheet and say, here you go. Like this is what you buy for, this is what you sell for. So it's a little bit different. And then for local roasters, it is tougher because a lot of them do make their own coffee. So I think that's
Mm.
also the thing. Even like the local cafe here that we have now, we asked them the question. They were like, actually, that blend, like we make that. Um, so it's kind of just the same thing. If people like what they like the roast profile they like, they probably are doing something similar just behind the scenes. So there's a lot of like hidden things within the coffee industry that we've just learned.
Yeah, I was gonna, that was one of my questions on my list too. Like, what is something that people don't necessarily know about the coffee industry? And I think that's that right there. People are doing it themselves.
Yeah. I've got some fun facts too on the coffee industry. I think
Please.
like a few, I think, just misconceptions people think. They're all around light roast coffee. So I love light roast coffee, but anytime you go to like a Dunkin' or a Starbucks or a big name, they're always giving you darker roast coffee, and that's because you can hide a worse quality bean in a roast. So I don't know. Maybe this will get me like some hate from some of the non-coffee snobs. The coffee snobs already know. But if you have, let's say, a coffee that isn't specialty grade, and all of ours
Hmm.
is specialty grade, if you roast it, most of the flavors you're getting are from the roast. So like those richer, deep notes, and like they're still great flavors. But in terms of the bean itself, if you're going to roast it light, you taste all of those imperfections. So if you, that's why most people don't sell light roast because it's harder to make, harder to produce, and bad beans like you will notice. And with us
Yeah.
being specialty grade, that means all of the beans in our bag are rated above an 80 on the SCA. And the SCA checks for things like bitterness, aroma, how it tastes, like its acidity, all these factors. And if you're above an 80, you get the label specialty grade. And you can only put that on your bag if you are specialty grade. So words like premium and gourmet, those mean nothing. Bubkiss, if you see those, I always run away. I always say if you see gourmet, run
Wow.
away. It's all marketing. Yeah,
Yeah.
gourmet means absolutely nothing. We would never put that on our bags. We put specialty grade.
Good.
And yeah, it's just something I feel like if you're ever in the coffee aisle and you can just look at different terms, premium, I believe,
Yeah.
does mean something. Premium, I think, means above 70, but don't quote me on that. Gourmet means nothing. And then specialty grade means above an 80. So always look for specialty grade.
Wow. Yeah. No, I mean, it reminds me a lot, like my husband a couple of years ago was like really into breweries and like like local IPAs and things like that. And it's like the same exact scale, like the IBUs and the hops and everything. So it's super interesting. And I had no idea. I mean, it's such a it's such an additional like education that you had to give yourself aside from your day job, and trying to own a business is to educate yourself on coffee. That's awesome.
Yeah. Like there's a great coffee out there. I believe the brand is Greater Goods, I think is what they're
Hmm.
called. I guess I'm giving them a shout out here, but they have a coffee that you can taste the blueberries in. The
Wow.
logo has some like berries on it, but I think they're in Texas. Again, not 100% sure. I just know I have their bag on my counter, but you can
Yeah.
actually taste like blueberries in their coffee. It's an
Amazing.
African single origin. And like that's the stuff that I love about the coffee scene. Like most people, they get their dark roast, it tastes like coffee, and they're like, that's what coffee tastes like. But when you get into like the single origins, it's like craft breweries. It's like, oh, like that can taste like that and it's still beer. Well, like same with coffee. That can taste like that and
Yeah.
it's still coffee. And I particularly love African coffees because you get a lot of berry notes, a lot of like fruity notes in your coffee. And they
Yeah.
usually tend to be lighter roasts. So you get like, I guess just flavors that you probably haven't tasted in a coffee before if you're just like a Dunkin' and Starbucks drinker.
Right. No, totally. Yeah, I love that. My like since starting the podcast, I've been trying to go to a different coffee shop every Friday. Just to, like visit, hello, how are you? Sometimes I work from there just because I want to change pace, but I love that. Um, what's like your coffee ritual in the morning? And how many cups you drink in?
So I'd say the ritual most of the time is that Hario switch, but there are times when
Yeah.
I'll mix it up. At the moment, I do not have an espresso machine, so sometimes I'll go to
Okay.
friends' houses who do. One day I will get one, but in my
Hmm.
head, I'm like, I'm not going to buy a starter one when I want the one that's more
Yeah,
expensive, and I just don't have the funds for that yet.
I get it.
Um, so that'll be down the road. But I do tend to make my coffee every day. But if I'm feeling lazy, like I said, the cold brew always works. And also, I
Hmm.
think another thing too with cold brew, a lot of people buy those pouches. You don't need to buy those
Yeah.
pouches. They're just marked up to an extent. You could just buy grounds of coffee and one jug. And sure, it might be easier to use a pouch, but cold brew is just grounds steeped in water. So those pouches, like again, super convenient. But if you want to make like a big batch, just buy some grounds, throw it in some water, and it's super easy to make, and just let it sit for 24 hours. Um, so that's part of my
Do you
ritual.
do it in a coffee filter?
I went on Amazon and I bought this gallon jug. So you
Hmm.
put basically a bag of coffee, like one full bag like this, with a gallon of water,
Hmm.
and just let it sit for 24
Oh.
hours. Remove the grounds, and you've got coffee for the week. So yeah,
Oh,
super easy.
okay.
For those who want to make at a gallon a time, super easy.
Right.
But they make
No, I
different.
mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, we drink a lot of coffee here. And my so the reason why I asked about like your rituals, every weekend, we try and like not rush out the door and we have like coffee and like some sort of pastry, like pastry and like toasted bread with butter is very much my husband's Dominican, so it's like the
Mhm.
Dominican thing to do. Or like those like little wafers, those are like very much my thing because my grandpa did that, like the vanilla ones. What's your favorite pairing with coffee?
So I feel like it's going to be the basic Jewish answer. I love a good bagel with lox. I try to have a bagel with lox every Sunday. That's like my, I guess, self brunch routine.
Yeah.
Love bagel and lox with coffee. Um, and I will have my coffee usually black. I feel like with specialty grade, you don't really need to add anything to it. Sometimes I'll like mix it up, add some ice. Occasionally I'll add like maybe a little bit of sugar or like a splash of cream, depending on the mood. But most of the time it's black coffee. Yeah, feel like I like tasting what the coffee has to offer. And then as for cups of
Yeah.
coffee a day, during the weekend, it's actually less. During the week,
Oh,
it's probably 2 to 3 during the week.
yeah.
Like one when I wake up, then I'll have one in the office. I'm very lucky that the company I work for has great coffee in the office, so that's
Great.
awesome. And
Yeah.
then sometimes I'll have like a little bit when I get home, or like a post dinner, like I guess like not a shot of coffee, but just like a little
Yeah.
bit. So two to
Yeah.
three. And then on the weekend, it's usually just two. It's like one to start the day, and then one like around lunchtime, like if I'm going on a walk or something.
Yeah. That's awesome. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, so can you plug everything you want people to visit, and make sure you spell out your
Mhm.
Instagram handle and everything?
Yes. So our Instagram is Chutzpah Coffee. So Chutzpah, as you can see right here, Chutzpah, and then coffee. Our website is the same thing, but add a CO at the end, chutzpahcoffeeco.com. I think one thing that I forgot to mention is
Hmm.
we do have a Bubby of the Month competition. So every month we feature a grandmother who's either drinking coffee or wearing our merch. And one winner a month gets this mug that says Bubby of the Month winner. And a lot of that is inspired by my late Safta. Our Bubby's Blend roast is inspired by my late Safta. So like she was awesome growing up. Like I was fortunate enough to have all four grandparents growing up. Two of them are still here. The ones on my mom's side are not anymore. But I really wanted to give like a tribute back to them in a way. In the future, there will be a Zadie's blend too, inspired by my Saba. So they're both getting coffees after them. But yeah, I feel like just the emphasis on like Jewish grandmothers is so important. A lot of them survived, obviously, the Holocaust in that time. My grandpa was a survivor. My grandma was affected by it. She was taken out of school, like where she lived and all that stuff. And I just think it's important to like, when you have pride, to reflect on like your heritage and your history. And my grandparents were so influential to me. Um, the roast is inspired by a dish she used to make. It was a plum dumpling, so the coffee has notes of plum in it. And we just want
Yum.
everyone to be proud of their grandparents. So submit your pictures of Bubby of the Month. There's a form on our website. Bubbies can self submit. We won't judge. And then our team just kind of picks a photo and we share it, and then we send them a mug. And I think it's a good way to like, coffee offers connection. Like submit your grandmother. Like let them have that moment of like Bubby pride.
Yeah.
Connect over a cup of coffee. And also I'd say like have a conversation. I think everyone with their grandparents, because like once they're gone, like
Yeah.
you don't have those combos anymore. And I'm glad I had a great relationship with both of them.
Yeah. No, it's so true. Now my mom is a bubby. She
Got to submit for
it's
Bubby of the
funny
Month.
as she gets. Oh, I'm absolutely submitting her once I get all my once I get the mugs, and I'm gonna set her up, like I'm gonna do a real marketing photo shoot. But it's funny as she gets older and moving houses, right? Like downsizing, and she starts to like unpack and look at things. Like we always thought that her parents were from Poland and Russia, respectively. Um, but it turns out like that was not the case at all. Like we found Hungarian birth certificates, and I was like, "Mom, how did you not know this?" And she's like, "Our parents just never talked. It was like the generation of like not sharing."
Yeah.
So it's so true. Like when you can sit down and have a cup of coffee, have a pastry, have anything with a family member, do it. And I think coffee is the perfect route, the perfect excuse to do it. So I love that so much. Thank you again for joining us. I think this was such an incredible conversation, and we love everything you're doing. Keep doing it.
This is so fun.
Yeah,
I just think it's just cool, like just to be noticed and like invited to something like this. Like it's just awesome. It means we're doing something good. Um,
absolutely.
and yeah, definitely if there's any brands out there that want to collaborate, our emails and messages are always open. And if you ever want us back, let us know. We're happy to have another coffee chat. And yeah, this was super fun. If there's any last
Yeah,
questions, let me
next
know as
time
well.
I will. I will. Next time we'll have to do it in person, um, at a coffee shop because I think that's
Yes.
perfect.
I feel like I'm either going to be in New York soon-ish, or if you're ever in DC, let me know and we could do a
Yeah,
Chutzpah
yeah,
chat live.
yes, definitely. Oh my God, that should be the next iteration of the brand is coffee chat live.
I get the time. That's something I've thought about doing actually. I was like
Yeah,
Chutzpah chats.
yeah,
It's just so tough because like I said,
yeah,
I'm not in content creation. Um, I think with small businesses, often like you have to kind of be a little bit of a content creator. I was
yeah.
definitely not prepared for all the videos that I have to make or wearing my Hanukkah suit to try and get views. But yeah, it's definitely something that we thought about. It's just getting the time on my plate to like set up calls like these and like actually do it from like what your side, because I'm sure like you probably know like running these podcasts is probably a full-time job for you as well.
Yeah,
So like adding another full-time job to my
I
full-time
know.
job to the coffee company, which is a full-time job, it's I'm
I
gonna
know.
need more
It's
cups
nuts.
of coffee.
Yeah, yeah. There you go. There you go. Well, again, thank you so much. And if you're interested in being a guest on our pod, blondesoverboardpod@gmail.com, you can find us on Instagram as well. And thank you again.
No problem. Thank you so much.
Bye. I'm gonna just end the recording.